But I would like to start off, before we do anything at all official, I want to start off with the invocation, if that's okay, Edwin. And I've asked Edwin Marshall to lead us in the invocation.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here. To be a part of this function for the Seminole Nation, I feel very humbled and honored to be asked to do this. Before we get started though, istizaro gitu ya junta, mau minta sampai ya mana soal itu, bihusukan, moment ya kita kisah hanya aksi moment Lady Hamlet, only strategy, man Salazzi, Iraqi, moment Himalayas to years. Jesus,
Tonight's event is hosted by the Native American Voters Caucus. And in case you might be in the wrong room, this is the Seminole Nation Candidates Forum. My name is Dana Miller. I am with the Native American Voters Caucus. And if you want to know kind of what that is, I'll just briefly go over Native American Voters Caucus, our mission. And that is to educate, encourage, and assist our tribal community citizens in becoming active in the voting process. This is my first time, or this is the Voters Caucus' first time entering into a tribal candidate forum. We've hosted many forums like this with city, state, and federal elected officials and candidates to get them connected with the tribal community. I'd like to recognize, I saw her here, Stephanie Lambert. Stephanie and I, this really came about, her and I were talking several years ago, just two friends over dinner talking about the political power that the tribal citizens in this county alone would have if we would all register to vote, go out to vote, and be educated on the issues so we can get those elected officials to consider us when they're making those decisions, either at the state capitol, at the city council, or at the federal capitol. So one of the ways we thought to do that was literally we went door to door and asked people if they wanted to register to vote. That was fun, right, Steph? And we posted several candidate forums. We felt it was important today to kind of take that that knowledge that we have of putting these events together and bringing together our Seminole Nation community over this election. So I'm really glad that you're all here. Again, thank you for being here. Before we go any further, I just want to let everybody know that is this Facebook Live? So we're going Facebook Live. So for the folks who couldn't make it today, thanks to the wonderful technology of today, a lot of folks will be able to listen and see what's happening at today's event. So thank you, Mark, for doing that. At this time, I'd like to ask our moderators and timekeepers to come up to the front. And I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves.
Good evening. I'm Sandra Madrano. I'm Tlaloc Tribal Town, Muskogee. We're very honored to be here tonight. And something that Dana said made me think of why we're here. She said to educate and assist. And we need to be educated not only on what our own nation is doing, but what especially our sister nations like Seminole Nation. So I'll be quite interested to hear myself what's going on in your nation from all of your candidates. And then to assist is just an honor for us to be able to help in a very small way. Thank you.
Hinge J, I'm Tracy Gouch. I'm with the Muskogee Nation, and I'm currently with the First Americans Museum.
Blue Clark, Muskogee Nation, Professor of Law, Madonna.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to ask, there's no real fair way to choose. So I'm just going to ask each of the candidates to come up by alphabetical order from your last name. And your time begins
Right now.
right now.
So folks, I want to introduce myself. My name is Anthony Wood. I'm from the Tuscaloosa Band. I'm also a great descendant of Chief John Remper. My grandfather was Jimmy Wood, Laura Wood was my grandmother. My mother was Edith Jacobs. My father was Special Wood, they call Western. Folks, I'm here to introduce myself, let you know that I'm a candidate for assistant chief. I'm going to be here for the people, the voice of the people. I'm not going to be one to sit back. I'm not going to be one to sit back and look at it and jump on the bandwagon for anybody. If it's not right, we're not going to do it. If you have the ability to believe in me, I'm going to stand above everybody and let you know how we feel. And let us take it. We've got the future ahead of us, beyond what we even know. If we only take a hold of it, take strides. Don't let anything hold us back. You know, we have a lot of stuff that's happening within our nation. One thing that we have is transparency. Transparency is being honest with each other. Letting the people know how we spend our money. Letting the people know where our funds are going. We have a lot of our tribal members have gone to other nations because of this happening. Creek Nation has upped their membership 10%. People I thought were Seminole, no longer Seminole. I'd like to ask you, who here is only Seminole? Can't go nowhere else? Raise your hand. Very few of us. Very few of us. I'm a true Seminole by blood. You never change. I work hard for you. I want you to understand. I believe in our nation. I believe that we can strive and experience a great future to see that each one of our children, grandchildren, will be able to understand that we are able to look to the future and build a brighter future for our tribe. We don't need to look back. Let's look forward and advance. Thank you, people. Thank every one of our citizens of the nation for my time being here. Go.
Thank you very much. And now we'd like to bring to the microphone Brian Thomas Palm.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brian Thomas Palmer. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I'm the son of Tommy and Janice Palmer, grandson of Tom Palmer and Minta Wood. Even today, our abilities and accomplishments are measured against those of our ancestors. They've overcame so much for us to be here today so that we can choose our next leaders. Our leaders historically have risen from within, stepping up for a cause. John Jumper, Chief Chopko, Alice Davis, even before removal, our war chiefs, their names echo through history. They resonate with our fighting spirit to this day. These chiefs were selfless, battle-hardened, experienced warriors that led us through thick and thin, always seeking peace and unity for our people. Today, we must choose experience over blind ambition and personal desire. We must have leaders that are adaptable, that are experienced, and have the spirit to lead us into the next generation. And this is why I ask for your vote. As the Assistant Chief, I will unite with our Chief and our elected tribal leaders to move forward. My relationship with Chief Chilcote, Assistant Chief Johnson, and Representative Yesleth is one of equal respect and understanding. A solid, unified foundation can only be built if the two chiefs are cohesive. We must use McGirt to strengthen our sovereignty. We must invest in our youth, our elders, and protect our women. We must preserve our traditional cultural grounds, revive our language, and support our churches. I've worked alongside our people for over 10 years, holding key positions within Sindog Gaming Agency, gaming, and as a tribal program director for 3 administrations. And that's experience the other candidates simply do not have. I've been active in the Tuskegee Harjo Band for many years, serving as the assistant band chief, and as the chairman for the Ntoi Mikos. This experience will positively impact the future of our nation. Look, our children are a reflection of us, and they should not have to inherit the same obstacles that we face today. So I challenge each and every one of you to be involved in your bands, to affect change, to affect decisions. That's the only way that we're able to move forward. You know, our elders, they always speak of passing the torch to the next generation. And I stand here before you, ready to take on the responsibility of this nation. Remember, real experience matters. Real leadership matters. The assistant chief must be capable of carrying the weight of the nation if the need arises. And I will honor your vote. But
And now, Jasia Lyons Echo share her story.
Ready? Okay. Snowfall, can I bless this? Hello, my name is Jasia Lyons Echohawk, and I'm running for Assistant Chief of our tribe here. My mother is Marcia Jones Chapman. My father is Jay Lyons Jr. I am Tom Palmerman and Deer Clan. I also descend from Della Coker Jones and Herman Jerry Jones. I am one of the youngest candidates up here. I am somebody who has been active since birth, really. I listen to stories that my grandma, Joji Della, shared with me regarding just her experiences as a Seminole woman, Seminole Creek woman at that, but she really was proud of her identity as being Seminole. She taught us language, she taught us just her grit, really, that helped shape the foundation for me to take this opportunity to serve the people of our tribe here. By way of work, I am a birth worker, which is like a birth doula. I'm also a student midwife, and I'm a grad student at the University of OU, the College of Law's Master of Legal Studies, Indian Peoples Law. So basically a legal scholar in Indigenous Peoples Law. I have worked through the last couple years as a community organizer, both on issue-specific campaigns such as the census and Natives Vote. Some of y'all have seen some of these around. In fact, our election board has used some of our posters on our Get Out the Vote message to our people, and that's something that I'd like to bring to our tribe. I have legislative experience in addition to community organizing. I have worked with some of our state legislators at the Capitol to address the missing and murdered Indigenous people crisis that we have on our hands. With that experience, it taught me to really engage back and forth with folks that I might not politically align with or even culturally align with, to address the crisis that really has plagued any country since colonization, since contact. I'm a mother. I have a blended family. We have 3 of our children here, and have been active in their lives as well. They are really what feeds me to do this work, to look at the future that is before them. As somebody who does live outside the tribal jurisdiction, it's been hard to get a lot of information just feeding to us, to our family, and from visiting with some of you through before the course of this election, before the course of this campaign. That's something that's missing, and something that I really have experience and knowledge in. I'm able to bring communities together, to build bridges. It's something that I look forward to doing alongside the principal chief. To me, that's something that is largely missing from our tribal council as well as the community as a whole. We could have used a lot more messaging regarding this COVID-19 pandemic and the distribution of funds. We could have used a lot more information regarding the McGirt ruling and what that means for our criminal jurisdiction. There's just a lot of information that we're kind of left out, and I can see how that causes doubt and dissension in our tribe. And it makes us feel like maybe we're living under a shadow operation, but we're not. We're living under, the government of the Seminole Nation, and that's something we should be proud of. That's something that I want to help restore your faith in our bureaucratic processes. I also want to reshape, reform, and assess some of those processes as well. So thank you, Mado.
And now Jeffrey D. Harjo. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Well, hello everyone. Jeff Harjo. I'm the current council representative for the Eufaula Band. 20 years ago, when I was a young guy, I'm still a young guy, but 20 years ago, I ran for assistant chief. And back then, I thought I knew everything there was about being an assistant chief and, anything, everything about tribal government. But I didn't. And now here I am, 20 years later, still looking the same, a little bit of gray hair, but I'm still basically the same guy, but with more knowledge, more experience. I've been on the general council for 12 years now. And with that, you gain a lot of experience just by working with your fellow council members. A lot of times we don't always agree on the council, but then the way I've always looked at it is that, once that council meeting is over, we're still tribal members, we're still friends, and, I've never held a grudge or anything, about someone voting differently than I did, because we listen to our bands, and our bands tell us how to vote. And although sometimes, when I voted, I didn't really agree, but, my band told me, that's how you should vote, and that's how I did it. I can talk about all the many jobs I've had. I started out as a radio DJ way back in 1976. I worked through television engineering, did that for, up until 96. And then I decided, well, I've been living in different places, Albuquerque, New Mexico, up close to Stillwater. I decided, I decided, well, I'm going to help my tribe, because I got my education, through BIA, and so I decided I'm going to help my tribe. So I came back here fall of 1996. I was the first historic preservation officer. I worked there about 4 months, and then I got the call to be the communications director for Seminole Nation. And the only reason I agreed was because I could be back on the radio again. And I really enjoyed being on the radio. I was able to communicate with our tribal members, and I had a good following. But, that was the first time I worked for a tribe. I worked for my own tribe. Then I worked for the absentee Shawnee tribe. I worked for the Kickapoo tribe, and most recently, I worked for the Pawnee tribe as well. Most recently, I was working for the absentee Shawnee tribe again as a compliance director for the casinos. But, to let you all know, I'm a person that believes in teamwork. I believe that we all need to work together. Like I said, sometimes we don't always agree, but we all need to work together. And for me, whoever's elected chief, I'm going to work with that individual. And, I do understand the Constitution, and I understand that the chief is the one that directs the assistant chief on what to do. And I will do whatever the elected chief tells me to do. I will work with that individual, and I'll also work with our council and also our individual tribal members. I'm all about communication, and that's what we kind of lack with this tribe, with our own tribe. We lack communication, sorely needed communication. I don't like to talk bad about people because I wasn't raised that way, but, I just looked at the tribal newspaper and it could be better than that. I mean, when I was doing a newspaper, I had candidate bios in there, campaign letters. I was a person that was communicating to the tribal members. Sad to say, we don't have that communication now, and we really need it. So that's my goal, to work with the chief and to communicate to our tribal members. Thank you.
Joe Coon, would you step forward and tell us about yourself?
Lapkuji taki menedigus ote oka. Apa nai nako nai anes. Vonangi Seminole Micro Pajifki Timpin kan halbuji onaban rektuimat. Chogo sako chogo fakahani overidos chogo homan oktaha tikfin ojimat. Kadi harus nalai fitnai manoktaha ocha tapal lage. Takwe wake akmanemat sejak kosov amajolga cakibi ibagi mahen oe didos koe nita hamgen akbane legeyo pokat pohedos komen akbane di wegipe papo hejik legemat chugo yogo fachan evokat pohemat ada sege chugo kanaman tahushe ya fachan awedos kon iski jemas Macho is a tahan Sherafaga, Ada Sagan, Shadimin, Dr. Degi, Adam Sherafaga Ojan Mo, Da Sagan, Adi Much, Oka, Chaki and Gorman, Asiji Much. So figure that Buffin, the Mokdog and Joe and Lidegi. Acted, it's act, she lacks again. So for Sakahan and Eva, Asiji knows. So for any Saki Moa, he jay, she knows, she lacks again. Just be that, Naki CJ. Gisibari abilit lagi mat, but Chofi go dos agent. Ma Chofi haji o jaga ma go mo seno jinos agent. Chofi chuk seno is agent. But he's asked man he's always agent. He's the Omar that Jabal Ejagin Wheatley. Hagakiran Sayajik, a Jabal Ejagin, Ayo Chabakin, Chahahoy, Ma no Ketchet, Victor Akit, Akabanahanesh Maket, I Benmans. Did anybody catch it? Probably not, because our language is dying and we're not doing very much to keep it. I went to the council and told them that we needed money for our department so we can save our language. Well, I guess it wasn't that important. I was a teacher in high school. I actually taught language. Matter of fact, I was the first person to be able to teach Muskogee language at public school and use it as a certified world language teacher. I was the first one from Seminole Nation. I know there were others that went into school and taught, but they were not world language certified teachers. I was the first one. In my life, I have done everything. I've been on the disaster relief team. We went down into the Gulf Coast. It was dangerous work. Before I left, the instructor, not instructor, but the team leader said, if you're afraid to die, you better not go because this is dangerous. Well, nobody backed out. We all went. We worked down there for about 4 tutors, I think it was. We worked down there. I was on the Ada Boys and Girls Club. I volunteered there for about 15 years. I used to go into homes of our elders. I can sing native language. I can speak native language. I can go into the homes and I can give them their last rites. I can sing to them. And a lot of them love those songs, especially when they're on their last leg. And so people talk about, we want to save our language. I've been doing it. I've been trying to do that. People say that we need to take care of our elders. I've been doing that. Me and my boys go around 2 lawnmowers, cutting grass for elders and doing things like that, things they need, fixing roofs and porches. Me and my boy, we do a lot of stuff, but I can't hardly go now because of this, 1 minute, okay. Was that a 1 or 7? But anyway, I got one of my former students sitting out here. I was so proud of him because he could sing our hymns. And I was so proud of him. We went to Northeastern one time. I took a big crowd, 35 or 40, I think it was. And we sang. We were supposed to do the lead singing for a summit. And they hadn't been singing very good up to then. But they got up there and boy, they sang their hearts out. And I was standing there and they kept smiling at me, looking at me. And I said, what is going on? And we finally got there and I said, what was going on? Y'all was all smiling at me. They said, everybody came in at the back doors. They filled that whole backside up and filled the breezeway here. And they were so excited. It made me excited. But I think my minute's up. No? Yes? Mado.
Thomas James Gahola, we'd like to hear from you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Thomas James Gahola. I'm a member of the Nutcut Harjo Band. I reside in Seminole with my wife, 25 years. My father is Thomas Gahola from Wetumpka. My mother is Joyce McCullough Alexander. We as candidates will present the case of why me. The members will decide on July 10th on who shall have your vote. I hope after tonight's forum, it'll help you decide. I participate in tribal ceremonial grounds, and I think that gives me the ability to differentiate between the difference between tribal roots government and colonialized government, because that's what we have right now. That is what we work under in our Constitution. So that gives me the ability to tell the difference between the two. But my wife, she belongs to Cold Springs. We believe in giving our children the opportunity to choose both. We believe that you should have the opportunity to experience both, to see what makes you feel good. Because whatever makes you feel good is going to make you a better person. And that's what you should be, is a better person, because we all want to the world a better place for everyone. Taking a look at which candidates pursue progress and stability, I believe I have the upper edge. Which candidates have chosen to be vocal enforcing our laws, the current administration, I believe, have disregarded them. They've shown chaos is diminishing our ability to progress. Our laws are circumvented, politically weaponized to serve the few rather than the whole. That's not right. I put my record of service as a legislator up against anyone. I sponsored a taxation amendment to add to the Constitution back in 2013, a sign of progress. That's the way I see it. A tribal ordinance to raise our taxation fee from 5% to 8% back in 2018. A scare tactic is used. It's always used. It's always politicized to scare our members that this is going to affect them negatively. That is what holds us back from progress. Fear. Fear has always held us back. Fear is not a component of change. Courage is. Courage to have the ability to not use fear. So with that being said, I look forward to serving, if chosen by the people, to improve our situation, to tighten up our laws, to clarify our laws, because that's the best gift we could give, is clarification to the next generation so they don't have the same interactions, the fighting, the disputes. We can move forward. We can put the foundation for them to build on. That would be my goal, clarification of the laws to make sure that we don't continue to stay dormant in the same position as we have in the last 50 years. No progress whatsoever. I want progress, just like everyone else. Mado.
And last but certainly not least, William Randolph York.
SJ, Stonewall, Chuck Jeffco, Doe Randy Northcott, Miko Abutkin, Ali Kins. Hello, my name is Randy Northcott of the Pleasant Grove and Bowlegs Northcotts. I'm the son of Jane Coker Northcott, the daughter of Barney Coeasy Coker and Katie West of Seminole. I'm the son of Don Northcott, the son of Margaret Northcott Harden and Robert Northcott of Bowlegs. On the voting ballot, my name will be listed as William Randolph Northcott II, just so there's no confusion. I was told we'd be listed by our names on our driver's license, so a lot of people won't associate William with Randy. I'm of the Tuzzagatt Harlow Band and currently serve our members as assistant band chief. I've also acted as the band secretary as needed, and I'm of the Panther clan. My wife of 25 years is Kim Northcott. Kim is from Edmond, Oklahoma, and graduated from Oklahoma Christian University with her degree in social studies, or social work. We have 3 children. Our son Alex is a firefighter in Elk City. Alex graduated from Oklahoma Christian University in 2019 with his degree in sports wellness. Our oldest daughter, Mackenzie, who's with me here tonight, she just recently graduated from Oklahoma Christian University's nursing program. And she will be a nurse in Oklahoma City next month. Our youngest daughter, Haley Northcott, was recently accepted into the same nursing program at Oklahoma Christian University. I'm very thankful for the family and the life that I have been blessed with, because looking back at the 18-year-old kid I was when I went to high school here in Seminole, when I wanted to be a truck driver, I never in my wildest dreams would have ever expected life to turn out like this. I'm truly grateful. I grew up in PG environment, and I graduated from Seminole High School in the spring of 1990. I didn't have any desire to go to college. I just wanted to get a job. I wanted to become a truck driver or work in the oil field like my dad, my brother, but instead, Coach John Morris from Haskell and Junior College approached me after our state championship football game in 1989 and invited me to play football for Haskell. I was shocked, and I remember looking over my shoulder to make sure he wasn't talking to someone else. When he told me he was talking to me, I immediately said yes, signed the paperwork the following spring, and after I graduated from high school, I got a summer job in South Texas working for an offshore drilling company so I could make enough money to take to college. I played linebacker for 2 seasons at Haskell and studied communications. After my second season, I worked for a year, saved my money again, and transferred myself to Oklahoma Christian University in Oklahoma City. There I studied English and education until I decided to study business. Oklahoma Christian is a private college, and it's expensive. So I go to school for a semester and set out for a semester to work until I finally graduated from the organizational management program in 1998. In 1996, I formed Northcott's Limited Liability Corporation. And through that corporation, I started a tire shop in Edmond, Oklahoma while I was going to college. With the money I made from the tire business, I was able to start a construction business. And for 10 years, I fulfilled construction contracts for the Department of Defense. Organizing business, budgets, and law are what I've done for the past 25 years. In 2019, I gave my son control of the construction business, and in 2020, he expanded the business to Elk City. Since 2018, I've worked for the Seminole Nation's procurement department as a Seminole Nation's procurement specialist. My primary duties have been to represent the nation's interests while designing and overseeing construction projects. As a result of my first procurement training in the spring of 2019, I was selected to serve on the board of directors of the National Native American Procurement Association by over 40 members of tribes from across the U.S. The NNAPA is a 30-year-old organization that offers training to all tribes in the U.S. to help them follow federal spending guidelines when they're spending federal dollars. 2020 was a rough year for us at the Seminole Nation. Many of us lost friends and family members. Finding a way to keep our tribal members safe once buildings are reopened to the public became top priority for my department that fell to me. I assessed our facilities and immediately went to work on a plan to keep the public safe and to keep the employees of our highest traffic department safe.
Aye.
I would appreciate your vote on July 10th for Assistant Chair. Madam.
Would you all please stand? Relatives and friends, these are your candidates for Assistant Chief of Seminole Nation. Let's give them applause and thank them for being here, for fighting, for wanting to help lead your nation.
So while our assistant chief candidates head back to the audience, I'm going to ask our principal chief candidates to come up to the front. And I just want to say really quickly, Ms. Vidrano, exactly what you just, echo what you just said. I don't know if everyone here knows me, but my father served the Seminole Nation for about 40 years on the Seminole Nation Council. I was a little bitty girl running around tribal council meetings. If Wayne Shaw's still here, he can testify to that. Grew up around a lot of leaders, and I all that time I've observed that anyone who wants to serve their people, it takes a special kind of servant heart and a whole lot of courage. Because when you're up here and you put your name out there, it's always up for scrutiny. And it takes a lot of courage to come up and for the love of your people, subject yourself to that. So I want to thank everybody again, the assistant chief candidates for your your willingness to serve your people. And one of the things that my father, Dwayne, taught me was that at the end of the day, we're all estudiantes, regardless of our band, regardless of who we support. At the end of the day, we're all estudiantes, thus deserving respect of each other. Are the candidates? Where are my candidates at? All right, so we're going to give, similar to what we did for the assistant chief candidates, each of the principal chief candidates will be allowed 5 minutes each to introduce themselves and provide a brief overview of their platform. Once we're finished with that, then we will, I'll turn the time over to our moderators. You can just take it from there. And they'll each be asked 4 questions. The questions came from a poll that we took from our band chiefs and asked them to submit questions. I personally went over all of those questions, went over the most reoccurring topics, and then formulated some questions from each of those topics. So we have the top 4 questions and topics that will be addressed to our principal chief candidates. All right. I'm going to turn the time over again, going in alphabetical order for the principal chief candidates. Whatever.
Good evening. Glad to see everybody here. Glad to see everybody out that's taking part in regards to such a good event. In regards to representation of the Seminole Nation. Just real quick before I go any further, I want to thank the Native American Caucus, Dana, Edwin Marshall for your invocation, Mark Williams for the videos, and then for the judges, your representation and representing us as well here at this forum. And then everybody that's here in this building representing the Seminole Nation or whomever you might be representing, we're so honored that you are here. One thing before I go further, I want to just engage with you because it is so very important here as we look at this and we set down the foundation of this. It's very intense, the understanding of it, the decisions that are made each and every day. But you guys being here is so important and key for us all moving forward as a nation. We need to have more involvement with our nation. To give you an example, when we had the last election, there was approximately about 1,000 people that voted for the election. We have a little over 18,000 members. Now, of those 18,000 members, that's less than 10% that came out to vote. Now, we need to have some change in that. We need to collectively look. If we want to make change for this nation, we need to have more people to get involved with our nation to be able to put us in a position to move forward. It's not about just us here. It's about you. It's about the development. It's about the foundation of this nation and how we can move it forward. So I just wanted to share that with you because that's the truth of the numbers. The numbers went 694 and 331 in the Chiefs election last year, or the last election. So that gives you just a basic number of it. At 1,800 people need to vote for us in regards to that. Just real quick, I know she said I had just 3 minutes. This has been one challenging term. I know that before the candidates, I want to also thank the assistant chief candidates as well for them coming up and trying to put forward a great foot for the Seminole Nation as well. But in regards to coming in, I came in with a $296,000 fine, $500,000 in debt to our health provider. Not knowing the fundamentals of how we're supposed to function and how we're supposed to handle that, decisions have to be made in order to be able to construct ourselves and to be able to get ourselves into a platform to be able to function financially. All right, not only that, coming into the next year, we had a $225,000 fine. Now, those fines that you're dealing with, not only are you trying to make the adjustments to be able to deal with all the different things that come at you internally, now let's fast forward, and we've been able to get the foundation of our financials under control. We're no longer in the black, no longer in the red. We're currently in the black financially. And I can take care, I can see that on a day-to-day basis. But now there's one other thing here that you don't prepare for and you don't understand is coming at you. One of those things is you have to make tough decisions, such as the gaming compact. You have to stand because you're having to stand against not only that, you're standing against the state of Oklahoma because the state of Oklahoma wants to tear something away at us. That's the most important thing that we have to offer. And we have to offer our kids, and that's our sovereignty. Now, if we understand sovereignty and the key value of that, there's no question how important that is because that's our inherent right as a tribal member. Now, not only that came at us, now also understanding that COVID came at us. And there's been questions about that as well. But the other one, I have 1 minute left. The other one, that is the biggest impact of all of you guys sitting in this room. There was a decision that came down with an agreement in principle. The agreement in principle had to have a decision made. And that decision was made to stand for the word sovereignty. And that sovereignty is a key ingredient for all of us here this evening. Now, I know we're in a political situation, but those decisions were made to protect you as a tribal member and to protect your children, your grandchildren, and those elements that play a significant part for this nation. And it's still being stood today. We're still standing against that element right now because it is definitely in our view. And we're dealing with it all the time. There's other elements out there that are against us as well. And we have to stand united to be able to fight for that. You said it's time? Okay. Mado, thank you. Appreciate your vote too, come July 10th.
Second candidate on the list, Louis J. Johnson.
Hello, I'm Louis Johnson, candidate for the principal chief of the Seminole Nation. I'm no novice or newcomer when it comes to tribal affairs. My family has been involved in tribal affairs since the 1800s, actually, and myself for the last 28 years. I have been selected by all chiefs of the Seminole Nation since I came to be an adult to begin to be groomed for what I'm hoping takes place on July the 10th. So I have spent my time developing over the last 28 years in the area of tribal affairs. I've served on many commissions, boards, and committees. I'm the only candidate of all the candidates that's going to take the floor this evening that has served in an executive leadership position and as a legislative leadership position as well. These things that has established over the years and my experiences actually will bring me forward to be able to continue to lead. And the leading of the Seminole Nation is in an era of time, at this time in our history of Indian country. We are in an era that we've never been before. We have our reservation that has never been established. At the last term, I spoke of things of this nature. Many people called them a pipe dream at that time. What you need as a leader is someone who can see the vision and see what's coming down the pipeline. And the areas of the federal government, and the areas of state government, and the areas of tribal government as well. And you have that person standing before you this day, in Louis Johnson. Because I don't wait until something starts to happen. I already have a vision and an area to know what's happening, the knowledge to be able to bring it forth. And I definitely have the welfare to be able to work with the council. I was chairman of many of the very vital committees, like the Constitution Revision Committee, the Codification Committee, and when the tribal council was a lot more elders than what we have sitting on the council today, they needed someone to go be a witness in the courts in Washington, D.C. I was a young man back then. They chose me, and I was proud to be able to be chosen at that time to do that. So have I been groomed? I've waited my time. I've waited my turn. I'm the eldest of all these candidates here that's before you this day. And I not only have the experience, I also have the imparted wisdom to be able to honor our ways and our customs, and at the same time operate in a manner and a way that's professional and sharing with the tribal membership. So consistently committed to community is what I am. I have an extensive knowledge of our tribal history and culture, and I am steadfast for sovereignty, and I'm Seminole strong as well. You know, there was a question asked in the assistant chief, who here could not go to another tribe if they so wanted. I've heard different candidates over the years say, if I was another tribe, I would go to it. And they usually use the benchmark of the Chickasaw Nation, our neighbors to the south. Well, most of you who know me know I'm Chickasaw by blood. But I'm here in the Seminole Nation because Lewis Johnson wants to be here in the Seminole Nation. I've been here in the Seminole Nation. I work with our community. And I know I'm the most experienced candidate that stands before you today as far as tribal affairs are concerned. And I will stand for the nation and sovereignty. And I appreciate your vote on July 10th.
Number 3 on the list of chief candidates, Senator Michelle. Yes.
Hinge Day, my name is Sina Yesler. I am the daughter of Thomas C. Waggy and the late Tony Davis. I belong to the Miccosukee Band and the Howato clan, and my heart belongs to the Geauga Crowns in New Tulsa. I grew up in the Barnum community most of my life. I grew up around here and in this town. I graduated from Barnum High School, attended Baycone College and Haskell, where I received my associate's degree. I currently reside in our tribal housing for the last 14 years. I have been happily married to George Yeslett for the last 12 and a half years, and we have 3 beautiful children. I want to start with an opening quote from Joanne Shula. Leadership is not a person or position. It is a complex moral relationship between people based on trust, obligation, and commitment, emotion, and shared vision of the good. Not only have I given my full commitment to my band, who elected me as their council representative these last 2 terms, but I also took on an oath to defend our Constitution, to uphold the democracy of the people and of this nation. I've had the honor to sit on our council the last 8 years, allowing me to be the voice of my band and to fight for the vindication of the rights of my people. I've also witnessed a brutality to come to those who spoke up, who argued for the betterment of this tribe. Knowing my days were counted with the possible attempt of my own removal for being a voice of the people, it did not stop me from speaking up and asking questions. Even during a worldwide pandemic, the people were in the dark, a time the nation needed to come together to combat a virus that was taking our elders, our young adults, our blood, and our communities. The majority of the council were in the dark. The executive was silent. This is not how our ancestors envisioned its leaders to treat its people. We need to focus and identify all the areas in the nation that need to be restored. We have so much potential to bring in revenue to help our current programs, to build up new programs and serve our people across the U.S., to the young and elders. The person with the right vision and heart to fight for the people will bring up this nation and allow you to be proud to say you belong to the great Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. The person to seek out those business ventures, to go for the fundings and grants, possible partnerships, and under this new McGirt ruling, taxation enforcements. We have given those with degrees, political titles, religions, and promises of growth for better from men. Now it's time to give a woman a chance, a woman who will speak on your behalf and who will not ignore you. Do you tell your daughters that they can't become police officers or astronauts because they are a woman? Or do you tell your daughters they can be whatever they want? Do you tell your daughters, your young adult daughters who are newlyweds, that they are to stand behind their husband, that they are to be seen and not heard? Do you tell her that she is only there to raise the children and to be in the home? Or do you tell her to stand next to her husband, to guide them in the direction that they are to go? to stand in front of him when he is needing guidance and to carry him when he is in darkness, back up into the light next to her. Women have every right to fight for the people at the executive level as the chief. Women have the instinctive care to be more honest, to have more effective communication, to bring teamwork efforts where it is needed, and to have fresh new outlooks and skills to the table. It is with hopes tonight you will hear the sincerity of my answers and the want to preserve and strengthen what is left of our nation. Madam.
So before we get started with the questions that have been prepared, Jagger, will you stand up, please? So while you're listening to the questions, or if you have some of your own, if you'll notice at the bottom of the agenda, we have limited questions from the audience. If you want to ask a question, just raise your hand, and Jagger, my son, will bring you a piece of paper. Write your question down, signal it to him, and he'll come get it, and we'll take it up. Jagger? All right. So I'm going to turn the time back over to the moderators for the questions.
Sandra Medrano and I have 4 questions for each candidate. And I'll start down at the top of the list. First and foremost, Reverend Paul Chilcote. Very first question, I will read to you.
All right, thank you.
The sovereign status of the Seminole Nation is one of the top issues from the questions we received. Given the recent McGirt decision and the gaming compact issue with the state of Oklahoma, and with increased scrutiny and refining of sovereignty, what does sovereignty mean to you, and what are your plans for addressing the sovereign status of the nation? You have 5 minutes.
With the reaffirmation of our reservational boundaries, which is very profound, it sets a historical marker known today throughout the Seminole Nation, and how that has established our reservational boundaries, and what that details. As I stated earlier, sovereignty, what it means to me, it's profound. It's why we're all here. It gives us that right to be able to do the things that we do as a nation. And remember that I stated this too. I just stated a nation. That's very important to remember, because our reservational boundaries have been reaffirmed. There was a decision made to go against that agreement in principle. And that agreement in principle, if you understood that, would have gave that back. And that's the decision that was made. That decision was what was made to protect our reservational boundaries and to be able to put that in place. What does it mean to me? Again, it's our inherent right as a nation. That's what sovereignty means. When we were tribal members, we were born into this nation, we have that inherent right. And that gives us a lot of freedoms to be able to understand within our nation, and a lot of things to protect, a lot of things to value. Now, in regards to moving forward, those are questions that are still left out there to be answered. Because once that decision came down, and once we fought against the agreement in principle, it opened up many doors, and there's many doors that we don't know about right now. You don't know about, you're not aware of, but they're out there. And those doors will come open, and we have to be ready as leaders to be able to step through when the time is right. You don't always know about the pressures that are around those decisions. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know how it's getting to you, but it's getting to you. But you have to make the right decision, because ultimately it's for our sovereignty. And that's what I hold is so profound. That's why where we're at right now, to discuss that question. is there's been decisions made to stand on that protect that. And I hope that you all understand the value of that, because it is profound. I do.
It's the same.
For the second candidate, Lewis Johnson. Question that is submitted to me to read to you on sovereignty. Which I'll repeat. The sovereign status of the Seminole Nation is one of the top issues from the questions we received. Given the recent McGirt decision in the gaming compact issue with the state of Oklahoma, and with increased scrutiny and refining of sovereignty, what does sovereignty mean to you, and what are your plans for addressing the sovereign status of the nation?
Sovereignty is a word that's being used across Indian country today. When the McGirt decision was confirmed at the Supreme Court, many people begin to say in the Seminole Nation, we're waking up to sovereignty. We're discovering sovereignty. I want you to know the Seminole Nation has been exercising sovereignty for many decades and hundreds of years. To say that we're waking up to sovereignty is saying that my ancestors slumbered and went to sleep. They were strong back in the 1800s, the early 1900s. We're one of those tribes that's not reorganized under the Oklahoma Indian Welfare Act, PL 280. We're not those tribes. We are a treaty tribe. We had more stance than even the Muscogee Creek Nation did in the area of McGirt. And I want you to know this, that when it was Murphy, the one who brought it to the Seminole Nation's attention, me and the band chief from the Topeka Hartsel Band had a conversation. I got it to the council floor. It was talked about by our Attorney General, and then the council at that time understood what we was going after. And I'm going to tell you, not a lot of people understood that in our nation, and nor did they support it in other nations. Sovereignty for the Seminole Nation, you talked about the gaming compact. We are the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, and because we are a treaty tribe, we need to look at that as a strengthening of our sovereignty, especially with the new administration that just came in Washington, D.C. We're going to be able to take a big advantage of the Biden administration in a lot of the areas that they're addressing Indian country. And I want you to know sovereignty is something we're not making to, nor is it something that we're discovering. It's something that we have been exercising for years, and now there's a great opportunity to expand that. I had the vision at that time to know what the jurisdictional issue was. I knew it was a heinous crime. I didn't condone that. But I realized the important values of what those cases could mean, both Murphy and McGirt. Not only to Indian country in general, but to the Seminole Nation. And as April 1st this year, the Seminole Nation had condemned the reservation to never have been disestablished. You think I'm just discovering that as a leader of the Seminole Nation? No, I would have never brought it to the council if I didn't think it was possible. And I'm going to tell you another thing. There's a document about this thick that's up at the Bureau of Indian Affairs right now, as I'm standing before you, that talks about even more than the little rural county of Seminole County. It talks about our rights as Seminoles to a misinterpretation for the last 160 years of former reservation. I believe it. I visited in D.C. You'll see on that pamphlet me coming out of the Interior Office a few years ago. It's ready to go. I can't wait to get before Deb Holland and take a delegation from the Seminole Nation and see where that area of our jurisdiction, as far as exercising our sovereignty, can go. And I'm talking about in gaming. We've always had the opportunity to go to the metro. It's based on your historical connection, a two-part agreement. You can't always allow the larger tribes to always influence you and everything. When Chief Floyd was in office, When David Hill was he was the second speaker, I used to tell him, keep focused, gentlemen. This is a Muskogee Creek issue, citizen issue, and Muskogee Creek issue. And I'm going to tell you, I can't say it because some of the stuff was shared in the executive session, but I've had a lot of long talks with Chief Floyd and with Chief Hill before he even became the chief. And I tell you what, they confided in the assistant chief of the Seminole Nation for a reason. It's the same reason that our people has elected me to every office that I ever ran for in this nation. I have never lost an election. And I don't plan on losing this election either. I appreciate your vote.
Candidate Senior Michelle Gessler. One question that was submitted in 5 minutes, and I'll read it to you. You've heard it. The sovereign status of the Seminole Nation is one of the top issues from the questions we received. Given the recent McGirt decision in the gaming compact issue with the state of Oklahoma, and with increased scrutiny and refinement of sovereignty, what does sovereignty mean to you, and what are your plans for addressing the sovereign status of the nation?
What sovereignty means to me, it means the right to self-govern ourselves. It means our laws of the land within our area. It means that we have the say over our people in this area, and what we need to do to strengthen it is to work within ourselves, our departments, our child welfare, our domestic violence, our courts, our light force. We need to all work together because we serve this whole county and all the people that's in it. As far as our gaming compact, anything that we have that's ours should be retained within ourselves. It should not be given away anything back because we feel like we can't handle it, or maybe we're not prepared for it. We should have been prepared for this a year ago, 2 years ago. We knew this was important coming. This is one of the questions I had asked last year, is where we stand. If we're working with all the programs that I had mentioned, is whether or not we are prepared with employees and staff and money to serve the area, vehicles. Our children right now in state custody, it is hard to get enforced within the tribes. Within tribes, we have our own homes. Our children should go to our homes. We should serve our people when it comes to domestic violence. We should be there advocating. And anything else that we plan on doing, it should be together as one, the council, the people, and the leadership. We should work to know what we need to set forth for the betterment of our people. Sovereignty is something that we can only give away. We can only allow others to take from us. We've fought so hard to get it back. We finally have. Now we need to make sure we can maintain it and work together to maintain it. Gaming, there's other revenues we haven't touched, we haven't tried. We're one of the first tribes that have casinos, and sadly we're sitting in the same facilities we have since they've opened. That's something, if we're going to look at doing and expanding, we really need to put money into ourselves. There's a lot of other areas out there that we can reach out to, though, as well. Gaming is not the only one. I think that's kind of a little venture that's kind of went off where we need to expand more. But definitely we need to put back into our people, our women and our children, and to make sure that our laws stand within this new boundaries, not our new boundaries, our restored boundaries, that they are given back to us and that we keep them and we do what we need to keep working forward. Whatever.
There's a list of, a continuing list of questions. I'm going to start back with the first chief candidate, Gregory Paul Chilcote.
Can we go ahead and stagger who goes first? However, she has an
certainly.
equal amount of time with her parent. Sorry, Jane. So we'll go ahead and stagger it.
Then I'll stagger it to the second candidate, Lewis Johnson. There's a submitted question, and you have 3 minutes in which to answer it.
Yes, sir.
And it deals with infrastructure, and I will read it to you. The hallmark of a fully functional government is its infrastructure and ability to support essential services. What is your plan to generate revenue, decrease debt, and strengthen the nation's infrastructure?
Infrastructure definitely is one of the key areas that has been being established over the course of many administrations. The issue with infrastructure establishment to the extent that we or tribal members are satisfied with has a lot to do with economic development as far as supplemental incomes to be placed into those areas of programs, departments, and key benefits for the Seminole Nation tribal members. Economic development, in my opinion, means don't use crutches. We live in the United States of America. Don't use the crutch of trust land or restricted land. We have preferences as a Native American tribe to operate business anywhere in the United States of America. We should utilize our restricted and trust land. We should utilize the restricted land of our tribal members. In 2018, the Farm Bill passed, and there was more involved in that Farm Bill advantages for Native American Indian country than there has ever been in the history. And when that passed, I actually brought a bill. Now, I didn't plan on growing hemp. Now, that's not necessary cannabis, folks. I want you to be clear about that. Hemp has been used for hundreds of years in all different types of areas. The one who brought it to the council and finally the higher attorney has finally got something for tribal law on that. It's going to give you opportunities. The Farm Bill, agriculture, there's some great opportunities there, but I think there's some other opportunities in the area of partnerships. The Seminole Nation must become a good partner because there's people that have capital out there that can help us invest in other areas of economic development. We have the land right over here. People always say, what are we going to do with the land? What's the plan? In our tribal laws, it tells you who's supposed to come up with a plan and bring a proposal to the tribal council. So we have a choice piece of land across the road from here. The opportunity to have 300 acres behind me. We need to go for that. Today, with the reservation still intact, we wish we had more land. When a rancher has more land than the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, that is a sad, sad condition. We're going. We'll continue on.
For candidate Yesmith, the same question, infrastructure, and I will read it to you. The hallmark of a fully functional government is its infrastructure and ability to support essential services. What is your plan to generate revenue, decrease debt, and strengthen the nation's infrastructure?
One thing we lack is 638 contracts. That brings in indirect cost, money that we could use within the tribe with different programs and build up infrastructure. Also, a grant writer who's a go-getter to go after grants. There's a lot of grants out there that we should be applying for, not just 3 or 2 in 1 year, and not the same ones that we currently have. It should be an endless number of grants written because that would be their sole position and job. Partnerships, as mentioned before, there's a lot of partnerships we can build within the city, within other tribes. Other revenues of sources, as we mentioned, we passed a hemp policy. We haven't moved forward with that. We also passed a policy on, we've always had taxation. it's not really been enforced for the last several years. And within now the city, with the McGirt ruling, there's more things that we can work in with bringing more money within building partnerships with the city and reducing costs. Oh man, I don't know about reducing costs. We're kind of, and I try not to be negative, but we're kind of there. We don't know our finances. We honestly don't. I don't, and I don't know where we stand within departments. So I can't say how we can reduce costs because honestly, I feel like we're going to have to rebuild ourselves up. But
To candidate Joe Cook, the same 3 minutes in response to the same question, which I'll read to you. The hallmark of a fully functional government is its infrastructure and ability to support essential services. What is your plan to generate revenue, decrease debt, and strengthen the nation's infrastructure?
Infrastructure goes to different cores, different values in regards to infrastructure. In regards to the governmental side, we have to be more efficient and more effective on how we operate. So we're more efficient on our cost efficiencies. So that's very key on how we want to approach that, and that's what we've been trying to do now. Looking at the infrastructure as far as the economy, as Candidate Yes List said, I'll go off on hers in regards to the McGirt. The McGirt ruling has a significant impact in regards to our sovereignty and being able to use that as a platform to be able to help as far as our economic standpoint. Now, it just depends on how we want to be, how we want to use our intellect on how we want to address that, because we can catapult off of that foundation. Economic development in itself, yes, we do have opportunities out there that we are looking at to be able to use a platform to build from through our Division of Commerce, continually trying to work with them to be able to encourage them to be able to put forward an avenue in which we can build a business so that we can partner with other businesses, because that is important for us to be able to solidify our economic side. And so that's some of the things that I want to pursue more as we're doing it today, is working with our economic development side to help develop areas of business that we can move forward and to help our infrastructure. We need to give back to our programs. And I was just talking about this today, that we could, within the next year, give like $50,000 additional dollars to like OAP. Nothing like that gets done very often at all, because we're only worried about our federal funding. All right, that's how we operate, is our federal funding. All right, so if we have an opportunity to give back, in which we will, because like I stated earlier, I know that we're no longer in the red and that we're in the black. And I don't know if you really realize it, or I don't know how long ago that was. That's been some time back. And so, but we're there, and if we keep moving in a positive direction, we'll be able to do those things. So we do.
We have 2 more questions, and they will each still be 3 minutes. The first one is on unity. Leaders throughout our history, even if we go back to the storied leaders like Osceola and Alice Brown Davis, they've all been faced with different variations of warfare, division, and partisan politics. We'd like to call Sina Yesla. How will you, as the leader of this great Seminole nation, address unity?
Well, as many of you know, unity has not been a part of the leadership or council for years. I grew up knowing that there's always been a division. Seated on the council, there's always been a division. It should be within those doors we come together as one to serve the people. We should not take our outside grudges and our outside insults and anything into that council house, because we are there to be setting laws and passing different resolutions that are to help the people. And there we should become one and work together. The chief and the assistant chief should be leading the nation together. I do know that the Constitution states that the chief calls upon the assistant chief for help and assistance when, needed. I feel like it should be a partnership. There should not have to be a delegation or told to when you're needed there. You should be there ready to work, ready to be with the person, and ready to be with the people. Open door policy, open phone lines. Everybody within departments and programs we lack in that in communication. Communication is what we really lack. We lack that, and we lack that we don't hold the people. We don't hold the people dearest to our hearts, and the people as a whole of the nation as one, as number one. It's all about me and mine, and it never should be. It should be about all of us as a team. And that's one thing that we need to do within unity, and always know when we go into that council house is that we're there as one and should work together as one and set aside all our differences. And I know it's been a hard struggle, and I will not lie, I've been dragged into things and I've been involved. But outside that council house, I've talked to everybody. I had somebody tell me that they thought I hated them or I didn't like them. And I told them, no, I feed off your energy. I'm one of those that will feed off. And when you're in there antagonizing and saying things and attacking somebody, I will do my best to defend that person or defend what's going on, and I begin to attack as well. That's something I'm working on. That's something we all need to work on together. But
just as we said when we introduced this question from the beginning, throughout our history there's been division. So Gregory Choco, how will you, as the leader of this great Seminole nation, address unity?
In my experience being in this role, there's many challenges that we face. Different things come our way. And it comes from different areas inside of the complex to outside of the complex to the council to outside of even our council, outside of this nation. And it's very difficult, but it is a platform in which we have to find an avenue in which to come together and to communicate those things to each other. Not only to the council, there is a part of it that plays a part inside this as council. But it's also to remember that I want to share this because they are a very important key in this and they get forgotten along the way. And it's the band chiefs. The band chiefs are a very important part of how we communicate information to you, the tribal members. And so trying to engage with them and share information that's of value to them is something that we are trying to get accomplished. There is hard challenges that we face all the time because of partisan politics, because of different thoughts, different platforms, different areas, different mindsets. But those challenges, we have to work through them as best we can. Is it always on the same line as somebody else? No. Do they always make it easy? No, it's not. You think this role is an easy role? No, heavens no, it is not at all. And everybody wants to say whatever, but we have to come together and be able to communicate those things. I know that certain things have been said about, communication. But that's exactly it in a nutshell. It is. It's about communicating with those individuals, just like the band chiefs, and that's what we're trying to do. Because we have to be able to communicate, to get information conveyed across. One, I'll give you an example. This is the first time we've ever went through a COVID. I guarantee nobody else has gone through a COVID. Nobody knows exactly how that all works and how you handle that. It's not. It's been a challenge. We tried to do what we thought from our hearts in regards to this and how to protect the people. And by communicating as best we could during that timeline. And so that's what we tried to do. So, Mado.
And for our last,
Repeat the question.
yes, Mr. Johnson, how will you, as a nation, address the great nation of the great Seminole nation regarding
Unity is a very strong word. In the good book, it says that the power of the Holy Spirit didn't even come down until they came in unification of the group. I think the ideas that we as tribal members have need to be looked at. Many people are discussing different areas of how we should amend the Constitution to force the inclusion. Inclusion is one of the key components in having trust. There was at one time I was able to go to every band, 14 bands in the Seminole Nation. Any of them, they would leave me to hear with respect, and I would respect them as well. That's not the case today in many of the bands because of the divisions that are there. Someone asked me that. What would bring us together, Assistant Chief? I said, there's some people that would rather die than to continue to violate the statutes and laws of this nation and the constitutional provisions. So we want to bring folks together. Let's work with that area first. I don't need the Attorney General, whoever it might be. You will never find me as a principal chief and the chairman of the council. You won't see me asking the Attorney General to tell me what the Constitution of the Seminole Nation is. I was fortunate to catch in on some of those that was on the Constitutional Committee. Know the attorney who was a Supreme Court justice personally. So I know what the intent. We can't go and use today's attorneys to try to curtail what the intent. We have a professor of law here. He knows one of the standards of law is what? The intent of the Indian people as they understood it when they were making those decisions is what we need to go by. And to have unity, it first starts with the nucleus. That neither one of us are no better, no less than the other. And we must respect those things among our people. If you would be truthful with yourself, you would say, the Lewis Johnson that started serving this nation as a young man is the same Lewis Johnson. Yes, even in the turmoil times of politics, I haven't treated you any different as a tribal member. I'm a lot more wiser today, thank goodness. And unity will come by allowing a focus of our spirituality, both in the traditional ceremonial grounds and the traditional church. And I think we should give opportunity for folks to have technology to be involved in bands. I can't tell you that's what to do. But I will tell you this. We saw it with COVID that what we... You can change it into Bibles. That's how you do it. We do that.
Before we move on to the last question, are there any other written questions that anyone wants to submit? Because I'm going to go through those here in a second. No? All right. Thank you. Go ahead.
And as Dennis said, this is our last question, and it's regarding culture. We'll start with Chief Chilcote, and here's the question. Many tribes throughout the county and Oklahoma, specifically the Cherokee Nation and the Choctaw Nation, have all placed a high priority on promoting and revitalizing their culture through language, preserving traditional ceremonies, and with cultural centers that are dedicated to accurate historical representations. What efforts will you take to promote Seminole culture within the community and for future generations?
Thank you very much for that question. I appreciate that. In regards to the cultural aspect of this,
Can you get closer to the mic?
Mr. Johnson, our assistant chief is so tall, I need to pull this down just a little bit. That's okay.
Thank you.
In regards to cultural, in regards to the recent McGirt ruling, that had the most significant impact that that decision and are going against the agreement principle. That's the most significant impact in regards to looking at the cultural side of the Seminole Nation and what we think about that to give us that opportunity. Now, there's other key components that are viable options that we need to look at as far as culture. We want to pursue cultural opportunities. That's the whole breadth of that, is that we can never forget that key component. It is very huge. It's a very big platform for us to never forget that. But as we move forward, we need to have the opportunities as far as funding to be able to put forth finances to be able to develop a culture such as a cultural center. You know, like you said, the Choctaws and the Cherokees have developed a cultural center. We want to do that. There's no question about it. But you have to have funding to be able to do those things. And that's one of the things that we have to look at and that we have to pursue. We have to be wise about how we approach these things. And we just have to have funding because we want to have those type of things. There's no question. So that's my answer. But
Mr. Johnson, you want to share with us what you will do to promote Seminole culture?
First and foremost, culture is a living. It's continuous. It's not about the dollars, it's not about the money. It'd be nice to have some things that we can invest in to be able to retain and to help establish more sustainability. If you're a Seminole Indian and you're here today, some of you, most of you are. We're fortunate. I've had people say how ashamed they are when someone who's running for office that they're Seminole. They were another tribe to go. You go to some of those culture centers, all three of you are Creek Indians right here in front of me. You go to some of the largest cultural centers in the state of Oklahoma, and what you're going to see is that there are displays and there are exhibits. They have Creek Seminole culture running through their videos and their presentations, singing our songs. So our culture is live, it's living. But there's something we call assimilation and acculturation. With assimilation and acculturation, sometimes what it does is it takes the opportunity from certain ones at no fault of their own, just because that's what's happening in major society today. We must find alternative ways to preserve these things. Encourage people to take place in what we have. We have a living culture, we as Seminoles. I would like to have 2 sustaining communities where they are not bound by the colonial economy, that they can live as Indian people as they want to, breaking the colonial economy, raising things almost similar to the Mennonites and the Amish in a native way. It would retain our language, customs, and continue on. And food security. It would establish food security. You know, no one ever used to have to tell us how to grow food. We have the scourge of Indian country, which is type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes. One thing about culture, as an elder told me in one of our band meetings many years ago, men aren't like they used to be. We thought she was joking us. We thought she was kidding with us, but she brought some old images out of Seminoles back around the turn of the century. And all the young boys were cut and they weren't going to Gold's Gym either. And all the older men were strong and vital. And they weren't going to the gym either. There's things that we need to watch as we begin to adapt to the larger society. That's not only making us sick spiritually, but making us sick physically. I'd like to see some of those things incorporated so that our tradition as Seminoles can continue the subculture of the traditional church and ceremonial grounds as well.
Thank you. Mr. Yesler, and what will you do for preserving our culture?
Preserving our culture. I'm sitting here trying to think in my head, you know, I can hear the introductions. My head and my lisp I have will not allow me to get my language out. But I want to thank some lovely women over COVID who put a website on Facebook together teaching the language. And I greatly appreciate that because we don't have anything. We don't have anything out there, any resources. It should start in Head Start. We should have language in Head Start with the parents participating. Our immersion school failed because they were not having the parents participate. If the children don't know how to speak it at home or have nobody to speak to, they're going to lose it. So it needs involvement from all the families. All the resources we can, teachers, videos, our elders. That's what we have very few left that speak the language. We need to utilize them so we can save our language. Head Start going into elementary, our schools, we have JON coordinators in our schools. How come we don't have a language teacher? It shouldn't be an elective in a high school to take Seminole language. It should be something that's in there as they go and get older in grades to junior high and high school. Our culture and our traditions. Stock ground, we have only one ground left, one fire burning within our nation, and that is Guard Creek. They're slowly losing families. They've lost some families, just camps, passing. Some families are returning, I've heard. I went out there a couple weekends ago and we're told that they have some families that are coming back, which is good. That is where we should be. We have another ground in Tulsa. We have a lot of Seminoles that bring to that. But it all should be taught within our Head Start. We should base our language, have the program brought back and revamped, and have those in it that are committed, and that's going to provide classes throughout the community, evening, day, weekend, because a lot of people do work. We have patchwork, very few that make patchwork or the meaning behind it, or to put it together. Those should be classes as well. I attended a few when I was in high school, but the same thing as back then, the big ring would stop the classes because whether it was somebody who was teaching it they didn't like or they felt like it wasn't right, that they weren't teaching it right. But we need to bring back all those who have that to preserve us because in generations to come, we're going to completely lose it. Whatever.
Okay, we're now going to put the questions from the audience here to each one of you, and we still have 3 minutes to answer. The first question is, what is your plan for a better partnership with the General Counsel? Mr. Johnson, would you take that on?
When you begin to speak about the bans, we all know that ban business is bad business. We realize that. But as the chairman of the council, we also must know our laws, our codes, our constitution. And when things begin to get out of order, you must call them out of order. But as far as getting along with the council, I've been here 28 years. I served on the council when many elders served on that council. So I learned from them how they got along with each and every chief and assistant chief. For us, we must respect each other as people. Because if we respect each other as people, we know we must live amongst each other. And when we come into the place where we meet and shake hands, and then we leave and shake hands, we must have a pure heart about it. I've always worked in the council. I've just said that. I'm the only one of you that served in the legislative branch. You served in the executive, served as a band chief, So working with the council is not really a big deal for me. I know you gotta show them the respect and the honor because they deserve it. They're the duly elected people of their constituent hands. And how you work with the council, you give them the information that they need to be able to make a decisive decision on their behalf. You don't wait 2 days before a council meeting and then give them the information, because that causes turmoil between chairing a council and being executive and being the council, because they get frustrated. But there's means and there's things already in place, constitutionalized and court laws. But the main thing is who we are as people. We have that mutual respect for one another. We're going to be able to accomplish some things together. I know one thing that is for sure, is that this election that we're facing now, it's going to bring in the most capable, self-determined knowledge of any council we've had in the last 25 years. If the projections go like I think they're going to go, which doesn't mean one way or the other that they will go that way, but I believe they will go that way, you will have the most knowledgeable council. You know what that means for whoever becomes this chief of the nation? It's going to be good. Because they understand self-determination in the nation, but in the council that's coming in. We don't need these divisive things that's been around, the splits that's going on. Of all the candidates, I believe I'm the one who can bring unity. Because I understand you as tribal members, and I understand our community and what the council's responsibilities and roles are as associated with the executive office of the chairman of the council.
Yes, Lou? How will you make a better plan for a better partnership with the general council?
My plan is to have everybody involved, to communicate with every one of the bands, to communicate with the band chiefs, to be available to the band meetings. I would like, and I don't know how, if anybody would be, against this, but a form of even if it's a bruncheon of just all the council, just to talk in between council meetings, just to talk about our daily lives and just what's going on or any issue concerns that we may have or want addressed. Not a council meeting where we vote, but just a discussion to see how everybody's doing. I feel like that everybody needs to communicate with one another and be available. Phone numbers, emails, we can shoot a text to a family member. Why can't we shoot a text to a fellow council person who's in the hospital? I didn't do that myself as well, but I did check whenever I did see, them out and about, how they were doing. Just the communication and just open arms, open heart, open mind, to be able to talk to everybody and be available, even to their bands, their people. If they feel like they're not being heard and they're being ignored, address those representatives and not scold them, but remind them what they're here for. I think we tend to forget along the way why we were voted for our seats. And that's what we need to remember, and we need to help each other remember what we're here for, you the people.
Chief Joko, what will you do going forward for a better partnership with the general council?
I think as we went through this timeline, we went into my first 4 years having an opportunity to meet, and we met in person. You come into the council and you communicate about certain legislative business, and then we had COVID, and it kind of changed the whole deal. So we were on virtual. And so we haven't been able to, really come together at too many junctions in the last year and a half or so. It's been a long time. So we've had a lot of difficulties with trying to be able to communicate like that in person. But I think that, as I stated earlier, I think one of the elements that we tend to forget, and it's been forgotten a little bit in the past, I know, is that the band chiefs, right? The band chiefs, we want to try to be able to communicate with the band chiefs, so that we can also communicate with the council reps. That's why we have our band chiefs. That's why that is a display. That's why that's an important role in regards to our bands. And so trying to communicate with the band chiefs, and then also having an opportunity at different times to be able to communicate with the representatives. Sometimes the communication in different areas does make it very difficult in regards to our communication on the floor. And so I find that sometimes that's to be difficult. But we have to work together and come together to be able to resolve whatever problems we might have moving forward. Because the council is the legislative side of the Seminole Nation. And so we have to have productive scenarios from the general council in order for laws to be passed. In order for that to get done, as the chair, you provide that opportunity to be able to do that. And so I hope that as we move forward, we're able to continue our communication, and hopefully if we have a problem with that, that we can continue to work towards improving that each and every time that we come together. So,
Last question, this is also from the audience. Candidate Yes, Liv? Since our youth is the younger generation, in what ways can you help the youth to get involved with the tribe?
Ways that could get the youth involved with the tribe. Wow. So, okay, my background is in ICW. So I worked with families for 8.5 years, worked with children on just with parents and families. So the youth, talking to them as much as it means to them as to carry on the language, the traditions that we talked about, the culture, to carry on these positions that we all are running for, to honor the Constitution and the codes, to learn them all, and to just know in the areas of what need to be touched and what hasn't been touched. Let them know that they really are our future, and we do say that a lot to them. We do tell them to go off and get an education, go off and get a high education and come back and work for the tribe. But yet at the tribe level, we fail them. We don't help them through those years, through elementary and junior high and high school. We don't help them to get where they need to be educational-wise to go back. And then when we don't hire them, or we don't put that effort into them when they do come back. So just talking to them on a one-on-one, be present and available at schools, in meetings and communities, have a tribal youth leadership committee, one that can present and have their own council and forum within our own little nation, that they can come and present their ideas to the council and to the people. I think getting them involved at a very young age is very important. We are, like I say, as far as within ourselves, we struggle a lot to carry everything forward, and we need to sit there and remember that our youth are watching us. They are learning from us. They're observing. We are teaching them not by just talking to them, but what we do and what we put out there and what we do within our own nation and our tribe that we build. That's how they learn, but we also learn by giving them one-on-one tools within ourselves, for them, us to them. But,
Candidate Jericho. Same question. How can you help the youth get involved with the tribe?
we have several programs that we have through the Seminole Nation that reach out, and I know that there's several individuals that are inside of this room that have been affected by our programs that we have established for our youth. We have our diabetes program, Wellness Center. We have the JON program. Those programs are established to be able to help our children get involved, to get engaged, and we want them to be able to get engaged. One of the things that I want to share with you in regards to all of us is that we need to look to inspire and empower our people for success. And that goes from all sizes, from the bottom to the top. It doesn't matter, it's all of us engaged has that responsibility to do that as tribal members, so that we have the opportunity to influence these youth, so that they can someday want to be a peer like the other ones, myself and Mr. Johnson, Miss Yesler included. So we have a responsibility to inspire them and want them to be better and do better and to strive to get involved. So that would be one of the things that I would say and share to them as well. Now, I'm gonna go offline off the question real quick in regards to this. So I'll keep this in mind too as we move forward. Foster parenting. I'll just leave it at that as a food for thought as we move and leave this building today, to look out and think about foster parenting.
Candidate Johnson, I've done this too long today. The same question, how do you help the youth get involved with the tribe?
I believe that the mechanisms for involvement is there. Not maybe to the extent that we are in today's advancement in technology, but as far as Seminole culture is concerned, we still have it intact. So encourage youth to participate in one area or the other. Encourage them. There's someone bombarded with everything underneath the sun right now in this day and time that we live. They don't have the same opportunities many times culturally to learn who they are as a Seminole Indian. That used to be a coming of age for many of us, wasn't it? It was transitions that took place both on the ceremonial grounds and the area of apprenticeship in the area of the traditional church. We know that those areas are not as attended as they once were. But the youth are to get involved through student councils, and what we have to do with legislators every year, give them one-on-ones. Help them. They can't help that they didn't come up in a home that they were involved in the culture. They can't help that, they're children. So we must develop areas that we support those areas where we know that they are good foundations for us as Seminoles, for a youth to have. Both culturally, because I'm telling you what, if you're a Seminole by culture, there's something instinctively in each and every one of us to be accountable not only for ourselves, but for our extended families. And if we can begin to develop areas of mentorship, where mentorship has now faded, we're going to be better for it. I was privileged to be able to see some youth working recently at the traditional church. When you see a youth singing our hymns, and they look like little miniature deacons in training, some of them, but they're not actually in training yet. It's a blessing. The same thing when you go up, like in the ceremonial grounds. I know it brings happiness to the grandmothers and the mothers when they see their young people take and be involved. But to involve the youth takes each and every one of us. It used to be who we were as people. Now we have so many choices, right? We have so many choices. And I used to tell young people when I used to give tours at the museum in Milwaukee, you have a culture and traditions that you can home to. You don't have to act like somebody out there. You don't have to beat your chest through the signs and all that. You're a part of the group people. Be involved in it.
Ditto to our chief candidates. And can we get another, just again, keeping in mind the sacrifice that it takes, the servant heart that it takes to willingly want to serve your people. You know, I'm always in awe of that. And, you know, in my mind, elected officials are not leaders. They're servants. And it takes a lot to serve people. You have to put them first. Sometimes, I grew up in it, you put your family second, and sometimes you put your health second. But if you're a true servant of the people, that means you have to make sacrifices. And so I want to thank all of the candidates who came today, and our principal chief candidates who came up here and answered all of these pretty tough questions. I tried to make them as hard as I could. I don't know if I did a good job, but thank you for everything. And so we have just one more round of applause for our chief candidates. So now, before we close for the night, I'm going to ask our candidates to just give 1 minute, Teresa, of their closing remarks. And right after that, I've asked Gabriel Lambert. You know, earlier when we talked about the importance of youth being involved, I'm so happy that Gabriel is able to provide us a blessing for when we leave, because we all want to leave in a good way. Again, we're all Estajatis. We all want to leave here. When we walk out that door together, we at least have all of that in common. We have the respect and admiration of the fact that we're all Estajati. And so, Gabriel, as soon as they're done, sweetie, will you do the blessing? Thank you. Let's do ladies first, shall we?
I'd like to say thank you to everybody who attended and everybody who submitted questions. I just want you all to know that the same dedication that I gave for 8.5 years to child welfare with the state and with ICW is the same dedication I'll give to my people. We are a matriarch tribe for a reason. Mothers give their hearts and souls to complete task at hand, sacrificing our needs, our wants, sometimes our dreams, to put our children first, their families first. The success many of you have wouldn't be if it weren't for your mother, your grandmother, your aunt, or your sister, or another woman at some point in your life. Let me set the foundation for a better, brighter future with the sacrifices I know it will take, but I have the strength of my mother and her mother behind me. And know that I will give to our children and our elders the gratitude that they deserve. And within closing, I'd like to use a quote from Wemma Mankeller. I want to be remembered as the person who helped to restore faith in ourselves. I ask for your support at July 10th as an election to elect me as your chief of the Seminole Nation. Mado.
Good evening. Once again, I'm very honored to be in front of you guys. In the past 4 years, it has been such an honor. It's very humbling to be able to serve in this role. And Dana, and her comment that she made about being a servant, it takes that. It takes that commitment to be a servant to serve the greater good. There are decisions that are sometimes that has to be made. And I hope that you understand that those decisions had to be made during this last 4 years to help put the Seminole Nation, I'm hoping, in a better place as the future moves forward. Because I think that as we move forward, the future is bright for the Seminole Nation, and it has opportunities that are endless for us to be able to catapult to. And I am just so honored to be able to serve you, and I look forward for the next 4 years as your leader, as a Seminole Nation chief. And I ask for your vote July 10th. Mado.
A few years ago, when I was elected the assistant chief of the Seminole Nation in 2013, there was an elder out at the Seminole Nation Day. She said, "Jabon, Be patient. Wait your turn. You will be chief. That's what he said to me. At one time, I'm not going to mention whose name it was, but they used to call me when I was younger. They actually called me Tallahassee Miko. And I asked my mom and my grandma, why does he call me Tallahassee Miko? He said, because he can see things better than what you can right now. And if I mentioned that man's name, he would know. He's a household name among our people. You know, the first year that Ms. Coleman ran, I had a lot of people asking me to run. I had a lot of people asking me to run that year. But I prayed about it, and I was preparing a lesson, actually. And I know we Seminole men don't like to say we cry, but I was crying, preparing that lesson. Tears, I couldn't stop them coming down my face. It was the Creator's way of saying no.
Hi.
You timed it, didn't you? I appreciate your vote. God bless you.
Yes, I'm sorry, what do you want? Sorry, after her. Get ready.
On behalf of the three of us, we wanted to say a Mado for the invitation to join you this evening, and we would be amiss if we didn't share where we're from and what's about to happen. We're all from the First Americans Museum in Oklahoma City. We're going to have the grand opening on September 18th and 19th, and we want to see every single one of you there. We want the Seminole Nation to be represented, and it's our chance to shine. We've waited a long, long time to bring our 39 tribes together and bring them from out of the shadows and from being the forgotten people to being on top of that hill right there in Oklahoma City. So come and join us.
My name is Gabriel Lambert, and I'm from the city band, and let's pray. Father God, I come before you, Lord, and I'd like to thank you for every candidate that stepped up and took their time and want to lead this tribe, Lord. I just thank you for this, Lord. I pray that as citizens, we respect each other and we unite with one another and help let our leaders become stronger by